Well, this week we were introduced to a new political game of ticks and crosses. Who would have thought? It's been another big week of news, and to talk us through it, we are joined by political strategist and commentator Bruce Hawker. Morning, Bruce. Ticks and crosses.
Hey, Tim.
Would you ever thought?
Well, it's been a pretty wild old ride with this referendum, so I'm not surprised that another thing's come along to create some confusion and doubt in people's minds. I think that's the strategy that the opposition's using here. I don't think it's controversial really to say that, well, you can have a tick which does indicate your support for the yes proposition, but a cross is ambiguous. And so I don't think there's anything much in that, but it does go to, I think, a strategy that the opposition's been running under Peter Dutton for some time, which is just to keep creating confusion, doubt in people's minds about the whole exercise. And of course, once you've done that, you've pretty much achieved the outcome that you want.
Hasn't been great timing, has it, in the sense of cost of living? The $300 million figure being tossed around is the cost for it.
Yeah, it was never probably going to be a good time for them to do it, but while all Australians are struggling with inflation and rising cost of living, I do think it's diverted them from the issues. I think it's easier to feel good about yourselves and good about the notion of the voice when times are good rather than when times are tough. But governments don't have control over all those aspects of politics and the economy, so they have to move when they say they're going to do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
For 2.5 years in here, we almost spoke exclusively about COVID. It was very real, but mask mandates are being scrapped in New South Wales. Do you think we can almost safely say, and people are very cautious around saying this, that we're beyond COVID?
Well, I think it's a brave person that actually says that, and you're tempting the COVID gods when you start saying that, Tim. But I think the Health Department has formed a view which is sensible, that the level of COVID infections is so low, I think it was about 300 last week, that level of care probably isn't required in the way in which it has been in the past. But I suspect that COVID's going to be with us for a long, long time, and we will see spikes. We may even see mutations coming along, which could change the nature of the game. But essentially, it's just become something which is now part and parcel of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you would be a brave person to get on the front foot. Now, what is going on in Victoria, Bruce? Dan Andrews, he almost has a Donald Trump-like Teflon nature to him. When he got on the front foot last week and said it's only going to cost us $380 million, not a penny more, to not have the Commonwealth Games. Yeah. To not have... This is after telling regional Victoria that this is going to be an amazing boost. It's a schmozzle, really.
Well, it's better, I think, for him to have that embarrassment now than further down the line when the loss looked like it was going to be something in the order of $1.6 billion. I think that was the number that was being bandied around a few weeks ago when they decided to abandon those games. It's a game of political damage control, really. Do it now, and you can hopefully get it out of people's minds before the next election. But yeah, nearly $400 million is a heck of a lot of money to have to pay for cancelling something.
It came the same day that Anthony Albanese announced $200 million to go to women's sport. So the figure was really contextualised, and we were on the back of the World Cup and saw what that did as well as a feel-good and a boost to the economy as well.
Well, it was never going to be a good day for Daniel Andrews and Labor in Victoria with that sort of a number. What he is doing, though, and that this is the real politic of it all, I think is just trying to draw a line under it and move on well in advance of the next election.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a political
aspect. Well, that's it, absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard. It's a hard hurdle to jump over, pardon the pun, $380 million. Now, Alan Joyce appears to be on a charm offensive. But anecdotally, plenty of friends of mine who work or have worked with Qantas don't like the guy. How will history remember him?
Look, right now, I suspect that they won't be feeling too... I suspect that history won't be all that kind to Alan Joyce. I think there's a sense that Qantas, under his leadership, hasn't really maintained the traditions and the standards that it has in the past. The cost of travel is out of control for a lot of people, just absurdly high fares. I mean, I was quoted the other day a one-way flight from Darwin to Sydney at $1,200. I mean, you could return to the United States for that on some airlines. So I think that's the sort of thing that's been a worry. There's been this lingering sense that shareholders are being prioritised over the flying public, and that, of course, is a disaster when it comes to your reputation. And so money that the taxpayer spent a heck of a lot of money saving Qantas during COVID, and then we see billions being poured back into shareholder profits. And of course, people will then point to him and say, well, you're a shareholder, you're benefiting from it. So I don't know that that's a fair criticism of him in that personal sense, but I do think that it's a company which is starting to have its image tarnished as being the premier airline almost in the world. And certainly it's dropping down the league table pretty rapidly. So his success is going to have a bit of work, I think, cut out for them to really get on to the front foot and start to build up its reputation, make it reliable and make it affordable.
Yeah, and look, a lot of people perceive fairly brutal treatment of staff as well during that time.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, don't speak to the Transport Workers Union about Alan Joyce and how they felt that they were treated, their baggage handlers and others. Pretty appalling behaviour. And Tony Sheldon's been the senator, Labor senator's been on the front foot making that point pretty constantly. I mean, he was one. When Joyce announced he was going, said, well, why are you leaving it until then? Why don't you go today? Which was pretty cheeky, but he made a good point.
Yeah, they won't be swapping Christmas cards, that's for sure. Yeah.
Unlikely.